All right, we are live, guys. Give us a thumbs up if you can see and hear us. I'm here with Amanda Bond, or Bond, as she likes to be known. So she is my personal Facebook ads guru. I'm actually part of her paid course, and it is amazing. Honestly, like I've never been part of a paid course that had so much one-on-one interaction, and just like she wants to see you succeed. So thank you so much for that, Bond. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on your channel today. How exciting is this?
This is awesome. Like, so you guys are in for a treat today because Amanda knows her stuff for sure. So, yeah, so if you've got a question, by the way, about lookalike audiences or about any kind of Facebook advertising, pop it in the chat. And then at the end, we're going to get to your audience questions. But until then, Bond, why don't you take it away and let us know a little bit about you? And you've got an upcoming YouTube channel, right?
I do have an upcoming YouTube channel. So,
Nice.
hey everyone, I'm Bond. I'm creator of the Strategy System, and I help course creators generate automated cash flow for months on end using Facebook ads. I've been in these Facebook ads trenches for coming up on a decade, which is an eternity in internet time. And it's just a passion of mine. It's like solving a big giant puzzle every single day of my life. So Facebook ads are my jam. I've ran them for a ton of clients, and now I focus on helping people implement it in their own business instead of being the middleman, so that they can take home more profits at the end of the day. So that's a little bit about me. We're launching our own YouTube channel. You can find that Amanda Bond, the ad strategist, in the coming days. Hopefully by the time you see this video, it's also live there for you. So thank you for having me on the channel today, Wes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so happy to have you on and share your expertise with our audience. So I want to welcome Darren Chambers. Hey, I see you there. And IDQ Graphics, welcome to the episode. So yeah, today we're going to be we're going to be diving into one of my favorite topics in all of Facebook ads, because targeting can be tricky, right? Like there's all these ways of targeting people, and there used to be a lot more than there are now. Like there used to be like
Correct.
income targeting, and you can target based on job titles. There's like still workarounds, but it's tough. And with the whole Apple iOS 14 updates, it's getting tougher. So today we're going to talk about what I consider, and I think you agree, kind of the gold standard almost of targeting, which is lookalike. So why don't you explain to the people what a lookalike is and the unique opportunity that gives us?
Perfect. So I think before I can explain what a lookalike is, first we need to understand a little bit about interest targeting. So interest targeting with Facebook is basically, you can say, hey, brand X or person Y or interest Z over here, let's go find a group of people who have that one single thing in common. And really what it is an educated guess on our behalf, the advertiser's behalf, assuming what the people that we're trying to put our ads in front of might resonate with, right? They may be like this, they may be like that, they may be interested in this. So it's quite the guessing game, and it's just one single element that this group has in common. So if we know that about interests, I mean, you can look at that and you can say, if I'm guessing, is it the best way to get in front of the people that are most likely to transact with us, most likely to purchase? Likely not. And as you said, it's gotten harder in the last few years to be specific with targeting. A lot of the income targeting has left. A lot of just general broad targets have disappeared. So if interest targeting has gotten harder over the years, the saving grace that Facebook has given us is the lookalike audience. And so lookalike audiences is Facebook's way for you to take a source audience, which means an audience of people that are at least 100 people from the same country. You give that information to Facebook, and then you say, hey, Facebook, go find an audience of people that look like that audience that I just gave you. So lookalike, that's where the name comes from. Yeah. Now, the beauty of this concept is Now, once we have this audience, the source audience of people who have very similar characteristics, demographics, psychographic elements, and groups of interest that they all have the same, well, then at that point, like Facebook takes all that information and spits out a group much larger that share those similarities at the end of the day.
Yeah, and they're just doing kind of a lot of extrapolating based on this group of people all kind of have these things in common, and a bunch of other people have the same things in common. So it's a little bit still educated guess, and that's why it takes them a while to kind of hone in on the right audience, right?
Yeah, it's funny actually, Wes, I was looking at a lookalike audience yesterday and we were chatting and I said, oh, this lookalike audience doesn't seem like it has a lot of potential. And then 24 hours later, it's actually my best performing audience because it had a little bit extra time to optimize to get the ad in front of the people in that audience pool. And then Facebook could kind of cherry pick the best leads, the best possible people to put my offer in front of. So in a 24-hour time period, it went from the worst performing audience to the best performing audience as Facebook really looked further into that data at a very simplified way to say it.
Right. And that's like a really good lesson for people too, because what is the main thing that I feel like most people do wrong when they're running Facebook ads? It's they freak out after 2 hours of it not looking so good, not knowing like it's an algorithm. It takes Facebook time to figure out what's working and what's not. So
yeah,
what do they say? Like 3 days is generally like, what is your take on that?
I typically do 72 hours, or if I've served up an ad that has around 2,000 impressions, so not impressions, sorry, around a reach of 2,000. So 2,000 humans have seen it and not a single person has clicked that ad. Mm-hmm. That would be, even if one person out of 2,000 clicked an ad, what is that? Like 0.05, not even, maybe like 0.005% click-through rate. That's my indication that the ad isn't resonating. But if it has clicks, if it's still not getting the amount of leads that I'm expecting, I'll let it run for about 72 hours before I make a serious decision about any ad set. Because we have to realize these are humans on the other side of the screen and they don't operate like robots. Like, let's say you put an ad in front of 1,000 people, and then out of those 1,000 people, 10 people become a lead. So they opt into something on your website. And out of those 10 leads, you have one purchaser. That doesn't necessarily mean for every 1,000 impressions or every 1,000 impressions that you put out there, you're automatically going to get one purchase. It just means when you have a large enough data pool, that's likely the average. So it's like you could get 3,000 ad impressions out there with nothing, and then your next 1,000 ad impressions gets 4 leads because like those are the people that were taking action during that time period. So even though the algorithm's super powerful, it is still humans that we're dealing with on the other side of the screen.
Yeah, and everyone's got so many different interests, and Facebook can only do so much, but yeah, at the end of the day, like ideally with enough people, you can start to kind of identify those patterns. And that's really what they're doing, right? So, all right, cool. So obviously lookalikes, you need a source audience, right? You need like something to tell them to look like. So what are these kind of different audiences you think people should start with? Keeping in mind, like most of the people watching and listening are service business owners, local business owners, that kind of thing. Where do you think they should start?
For this demographic, I feel like an easy place to start would be if you have any sort of email list, which may or may not be the case. If there's 100 people from the same country, Wes just said you should. So if you don't have it, you got to get on it. But that would be the group of people that I would likely start with first. It's people that have basically given you permission to market to them. They're people who are interested in what you put out into the world. And so if you have their emails, you have a high level of trust with those people. So let's say you've got 500 people that have given you emails. If you give that list back to Facebook in what's called a custom audience, an email custom audience, you can then just take that group of 500 people and go find more people that look exactly like them. So that would probably be where I start. There are tons of options though. So if you have website traffic and you have your Facebook pixel on that website, you could say to Facebook, hey, Facebook, anyone who lands on my website and within the last 180 days, give that information to them to create a lookalike. So we got emails, website. If you use your Facebook page to promote your business and you have people that engage with you on the page, whether that's liking, commenting, or sharing your posts, or watching videos on your page, maybe sending you a message to ask for a quote or to ask about your offers or your services, then you can take that Facebook page engagement over the last year and give that to Facebook to upload as a lookalike audience. And then the same for Instagram as well. So if you use an Instagram, now the caveat with Instagram is it has to be an Instagram business profile. It cannot be just your personal Instagram profile. It does need to be a business, or I believe they have a third option called a creator profile.
Okay, so yeah, anybody who's watching or listening, and if you ever plan on running anything on Instagram, make sure you get that business profile, because there's so many things unavailable to you on a personal profile. So that's awesome. And I like that. So basically what you're saying is there's different levels of commitment people are showing, right? Like I would say anyone who's just kind of liking something on Facebook might be like the bottom of the list, right? And then as you get higher and higher, really high up is someone who's opted in for your lead magnet. Higher than that would be someone who's bought from you. They've actually spent money with you, right? So, but here's where it gets a little tricky. You and I have been working on this within your program. I've had a hard time figuring out the right lookalike for me, because here's what I was doing was making a lookalike for anyone who actually bought my paid program, right? Because obviously most valuable. But the problem is, while Facebook only requires 100 people in a single country?
100.
Okay, that's like what Facebook says, that's our bare minimum, that's what we need to do it. However, we all know, in this world that 100 people is probably not big enough of an audience to really make a lookalike audience that's going to like do something, because there's not enough data points that they can find, right?
Yeah. If there's any data scientists watching right now, they're going to be like, 100 people to find the similarities between them is not going to be enough of a data set to really dive in. So the nuance to all this is there are people who interact with us in a more meaningful way, like the people that purchase from us as business owners. That's a more meaningful interaction than a Facebook page, like you said. And so we want to find people more like that, but we need to give Facebook enough information to go out and find the similarities between that pool of people. So, I mean, if you look at your customers, this customer over here, this client over here, this member over here, however you refer to them, can look vastly different from one another. So there's not going to be necessarily enough information from that first 100. So you can create a stronger lookalike by zooming out a little bit in terms of your sales process, right? If you don't have 100 people who are customers, or that 100 people who are customers isn't turning out to be a strong lookalike audience, maybe we could zoom out one further and have create an audience of people who landed on our offers page on our website. So people who checked out your services or your pricing.
Yeah,
and so maybe
pricing
there's
page is a good one.
right, because
That
that's
shows some real
people
intent.
interested.
Yeah.
They might not have purchased, but they have interest, and that's a stronger group than people just reading blog posts on your website. So let's say you had 100 purchasers, but you have 500 people that went to your pricing page. Now those 500 people might have a stronger data set to give back to Facebook to create a stronger lookalike audience so that they can cherry pick the best people from that audience as you serve ads up to them.
Yeah, totally. So, and I've noticed like since I backed off from that purchaser list and now I'm just on the lookalike audience of anyone who's opted in for my masterclass, much bigger audience. That's like 1,500 people. It's doing much better. So little less, yeah, like it's a little less engaged, but still engaged enough. And there's enough people to really make those kinds of judgment calls, which is nice. So
yeah. And the funny thing is, in 2 weeks' time, it could completely change and your original lookalike audience could start to perform because remember, it's not robots, it's humans on the other side of the screen. And so at any given time, when we place ads on Facebook and Instagram and the audience network, when we're entering into the Facebook auction, it's just that, it's an auction. We're vying for people's attention. We're competing against other advertisers. And so Facebook's trying to slot us in front of real eyeballs at any given time. And so something that works today can slightly change 2 weeks from now once all of those little elements change at any given time. So it's a very nuanced thing, but at the same time, getting in front of your ideal humans that you want to transact with on this platform. Like we've never had opportunities like this in the last 20 years. So like, I'm so thankful every day for this platform and this ability to connect with those people on the other side of the screen.
yeah, for sure. And things may be kind of changing. We'll get to that in a bit. So not to freak anyone out, but yeah. So we've talked about the different kinds of sources for these lookalike audiences. What about the sizes? Can you talk a little bit about? Have we touched on yet like the different? Like it's 1% of the population. Have we talked about? Yeah, let's talk about our different options and what you might recommend.
Perfect. So I thought you were referencing the size of the source audience that we had just covered, but what Wes is referring to is when you create a lookalike audience, you have the option to then choose an audience that's between 1 to 10% of the population of any given country, which is a wildly big audience, right? Mm-hmm. So I live in Canada. I'm Canadian. I currently live in Mexico. And so our Canadian population, I believe is it's only 36 million. So if I was to create a lookalike audience of 1% of the Canadian population, that would be, 3.6 million. However, not everyone in the Canadian population is active on Facebook, is an available profile that can be targeted. So I believe every time I make a lookalike audience in Canada of about 1% of the population, it's around 1 million people that I now can target that look like that original source audience. That right there just shows you that if you only have about 100 people in that data set, it's going to be hard to find enough information from those 100 people to go find 1 million people that look just like them, especially if you're in maybe more of an obscure niche or something that's a little bit of a smaller industry. That is the one disadvantage of a lookalike is sometimes it's really nice to be like, go target the person that likes exactly this topic right here.
Yeah. That's so funny you brought that up because that was my exact next question. Like, when is it a good idea not to use lookalikes and just go for targeting? And it sounds like it's when you're in a super niche, right?
Yeah, okay. When you're in a super niche. Also, if you're doing business primarily locally, it doesn't make sense to try and target 1% of the population of your entire country when you have more powerful targeting options like postal code or zip code targeting, where you can go and say, hey, for this zip code, go target the people that live there. Or just even geographic targeting, where I would say, hey, target people who live in Toronto, Ontario, like me, and then find people who live within a 25-mile radius of that area, right? It might not be zip code specific, but if you do like a general geographic area, you have that option as well. So if there's no transactions or no services that you offer outside of that local area, lookalikes might not be the best source of people when you can just say, hey, let's target this geographic location instead.
Sure. And I've gotten this question a lot of times before. Like, a lot of people they're more of a local business, but they still want to use the lookalikes. So sounds like what you're saying is probably not the best, but what if you lived in like New York, like Manhattan, or could you still use the lookalike and then just filter it through narrow? Because just so people are aware, you're not going to choose the top 1% of New York City. You're going to choose the 1% of the country and then use the layer on top of that. But of those people, only in New York. Could that ever work, or do you think that's...
Yeah, it absolutely could. If the demographic area or the geographic area is large enough to support that, where you're going to run into challenges if I tried to target my hometown of Brantford that has like 100,000 people in it, I'm going to take this already finite audience and try and target like a microcosm of the country. And it's going to be like, you can target 7 people. And then I'll be like, whoa, there's 7 people in my city who know about this specific topic. Where are these people? They got to be my BFFs now.
Yeah. You're going to find your one best customer that way, for sure.
Correct. But I believe ads don't deliver if there's less than 20 people in the audience. So you're like, what?
Yeah.
where's the 13 more people in this audience?
Okay, so I think a lot of people watching this might be in that situation where they are a local business and they're not in New York, they're closer to your hometown. What would you tell them? What should they be focusing on in terms of, I guess, objective and targeting? Because we've kind of covered the targeting, but what about the objective? Like, when you've got a tiny population, what do you do?
Yeah, I am a big fan of essentially owning your market, because if you look at the people who are able to transact with you in your area, the people who are in the age bracket, the geographic area, specifically when you're getting as granular as zip codes or postal codes, you're going to see that maybe there's only 56,000 people that you have available to target. Now, when you have an audience that's that finite, I look at that and I say, well, the cost to deliver 1,000 impressions, which is the CPM, cost per mil, cost to deliver 1,000 impressions, is around $10 to $15. Essentially, if there's 56,000, that's 56 CPMs, it would cost $560 to get in front of each one of those people in that audience. So I look at that and I say, that's a fascinating observation, because let's say I offer a service where I install windows, and a job for that window installation company costs on average $8,000, and we can spend up to $500 to acquire that job. I'm going to look at that and be like, fascinating. I could put an ad in front of every single person in that small audience for the cost of acquiring one job. And so in my head, I look at that and I was like, well, there's bus advertising, there's radio advertising, there's mail advertising, all these mediums that we can't track the results of them as easily. It's not that we can't track them, it's just like a delay and lag in doing so. I look at the expense of placing those and I'm like, I could place one radio ad that maybe people are listening to that maybe they're getting like taking action on for $500 or, you know, a few radio spots, or I can get in front of every single one of those humans and track if they're hitting my pricing page, track if they're requesting a quote with the Facebook pixel. That is more fascinating to me. So I would consider running reach ads. And this is not just like reach ads, meaning don't just ask people like, call me if you need windows repaired. Like
Right.
getting in front of them from a branding perspective, similar to what you would put on the radio. And then because it's only $500 to get in front of all of those people, I might then have another ad that is an ad that optimizes for traffic, which means clicks over to your website. Because it's such a small, finite audience, we're able to get in front of those people over and over again. And what's that like cliche rule of branding where you have to get in front of people 7 times before they like know you and take action?
I've heard a million different numbers of that, and it keeps
going
up, so.
Totally. But I look at it from that perspective, and I say, reach ads gets my brand in front of people and I can track their results with the Facebook pixel. Traffic ads sends those people over to my website. And then if you have people request a quote or subscribe to your newsletter or any way where you capture a lead, then conversion ads can track those people. So I would stick within those. If your company is producing any sort of video content, I might consider video view ads as well, because those are really cost effective. Same with the reach ads to get in front of the people. And then just make sure you put engaging content in front of them. Like, don't be a marketer son who's like, buy my stuff, call me now.
It's not an infomercial. It's not a standard commercial. Like, that's big brands can afford to do those kind of big marketing plays, but smaller businesses have to be more smart about it. Content marketing, right? So
totally. You actually made a great suggestion on your Instagram stories not too long ago. What was that book called about asking people?
They Ask You Answer. Yeah,
that one.
It's right up there. You can't see it, but that's on my shelf right up there. No, it's a good one. Anyone looking for content marketing advice, They Ask You Answer by Marcus Sheridan. It's a must read for sure. So anyone here, I do see your questions coming in. We're going to get to them, I promise. And if you're here and you haven't asked one yet, but you have a question about either lookalikes or just any kind of Facebook ads questions, pop them in the chat. We'll get to it in a second. But before we get there, I do want to bring up kind of the elephant in the room. Everyone's talking about it right now with Facebook ads, and that is the new Apple iOS 14 update. So let's talk about that. And if I said, we were talking before we got started here, just the two of us, like I still am having a hard time wrapping my mind around all the ramifications of this. Could you kind of just tell the people, thumbnail sketch, what it is, and how do you think it's going to affect Facebook's ability to make lookalike audiences and what we can expect?
Yeah, so the Cliff's Notes version, do you guys have Cliff's Notes in the States?
I read them exclusively all through high school.
Okay, perfect. So wait, no, in Canada we call them Coles Notes. The Coles Notes versions is that Facebook and Apple both want their user information protected and private, and they're both different companies who have their own goals. And so they're not playing nice right now. So Apple is saying, hey, anyone who uses an iPod, who's browsing the internet on their iPod anymore? I say that because this morning I looked at one of the ads I was running and one person from an iPod saw my ad and I died laughing.
Yeah.
So if they're on an iPhone or an iPad on the mobile app, Facebook now has to ask people if they want to opt out of being tracked when they visit sites off of Facebook. And so if people opt out of being tracked, what that means is those websites then cannot send that user information back to Facebook, right? Like if they see an ad and they click it, Facebook then doesn't know, hey, something then happened over on that website, like they purchased something or they subscribe to an email list, because that information can't be sent back. And so that's essentially what everyone's trying to navigate. And at first, I was in the belief system that it wouldn't make that big of a difference, because sure, a fraction of people look at Facebook from their phone. But as we've continued to run ads, as the changes have rolled out, we realize that the tracking is making a lot of difference in ad results. Not necessarily results, because people are still clicking from your ads over to your website and taking actions. So those actions are still happening. It's just not being reported back to Facebook as quickly as it was before.
So it's still being tracked. It's just there's a lag, there's a delay.
No. So to clarify,
Okay.
It's still happening, but it's not being reported back to Facebook that it is happening.
Got it.
Here's the caveat. Some of the things are being reported back. Those things just then have a delay. So the power of Facebook is that they can take the information that's happening off their site to then optimize the delivery of those ads. Like that's the power and the beauty of Facebook. But now Apple said, well, hey, for me, it's over 50% of my traffic. Hey, anyone who's using an iPhone, you now are not going to get accurate information about those people. And if you can't get accurate information, how can we, Facebook, optimize to find more people like that? And so it's early days of what's happening, meaning Facebook's going to fix it. Facebook is going to make ways and workarounds around it. There's going to be improvements on their back end. So basically, we're in the worst of it right now. And if we can't get that information sent from our websites back to Facebook, the source audiences that we create lookalikes from, when we use our website traffic, will be missing the people who have opted out of tracking from the mobile apps at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So it's a fascinating, like in the thick of it topic that there's lots of questions, and every time we get answers, there's even more questions around it. But the way that I look at it is, I mean, like that's why people like Wes and I exist, to help people navigate the uncertainty of changes in the online space.
Job security for us, I guess, but
Correct.
but I don't even get like the technical aspects of it. Like my brain has to do a little bit of a backflip to get there, but I'm slowly wrapping my mind around it. But I do know this much is true. Facebook is smart as hell. Like those guys will figure out some way around it by still playing by the rules, but they'll come up with new methods that we haven't even thought of yet. So yeah, I think we're definitely in the worst of it now. It's only going to go up from here. So yeah, cool. So before we get to the questions, Bon, you want to let people know where they can find more about you online, and then we can jump in?
Absolutely. You can come on over to my website at theadstrategist.com, or I hang out mostly on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/theadstrategist.
Nice. Are you still on Clubhouse a lot?
Not as much, but I'm very fascinated by the platform. Not to go off on a Clubhouse tangent, but for me, the fact that it disappears makes it something that I'm not spending so much time on, because it's not a lasting asset that works for you once you're done it.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same. I was very addicted to it for a bit, and now I backed off a bit. But we'll see how it goes. But
Yeah.
anyway, so guys, you've been asking some pretty great questions here. So let me go ahead and get to them. So IDQ Graphics says, wait, I lost it. Sorry. I have a real issue in getting audience selection. Whenever I try to go in detailed targeting, the answers are not as expected after ad launch. So basically, that just could mean you're not, you might have some work to do choosing the right audience. I know for me, and that you can speak to this too, probably, right, Bon? Like a lot of times what you think is your good audience, like, doesn't always hit home.
Doesn't always hit home.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's the ad creative. Like our ads actually aren't resonating with the people that we're choosing. So if that's the case, I would look at what ads you're trying to put in front of those audiences, as well as the audiences that you're choosing.
Yeah. So it's a lot of trial and error, unfortunately. Okay, so let's go to Darren Chambers. Is it best to upload an email list to your Facebook audiences?
I mean, I love uploading email lists because those are the people that have given you permission to transact with them already. So not only can we target, or not transact with you, but like engage with you, right? So not only can we then target those specific people with our ads to then move them closer to becoming customers, but we can also then use that as a source audience, and they are deeper in our sales process, therefore like a higher quality data pool than somebody who's just like watching a few seconds of our videos on Instagram, for example.
Yeah, for sure. And I do want to make this clear because I get this question every now and then about email lists. People ask me like, can I upload the list that I bought? I highly, first of all, it's against terms of service, right? You're not really
Yeah.
allowed to do that. Second of all,
I think it's
these are,
against the, what's it called? The Can Spam Act as well. Like
yeah,
if they didn't give you permission, they might have given somebody else permission, unless they scraped it off the internet, which means basically just stole it from other sources. If they haven't given you permission to advertise to them or email them, there's some legalities around that. So I don't ever go into gray territory when it comes to Facebook stuff.
yeah. And like, I think a lot of those email addresses are just bad at this point too. Like they're out of date. And to create a lookalike of something that's not even like a great audience to begin with,
Yeah.
I think that's a bad idea. All
Yeah.
right, so let's see. K Squared Fitness is here. Hey, and another one from IDQ Graphics says, how can we feed our lookalike audience in Facebook Ads Manager, or is there any other way to do it?
It's actually super easy. If you go into Facebook Ads Manager and there's a menu button there, you just click on audiences. It's literally just called audiences, super easy. And then there is one button that says create an audience, and you need to create one audience first before you can create a lookalike audience. So that one audience is called a custom audience. And we talked about that earlier in the show here today. So that's an email list, any of your website traffic, your Facebook page engagement, your Instagram engagement, anyone who watched a video on Facebook or Instagram. There's a few others, but those are the top like 6 that I would recommend. So you create that audience first, and then you click the exact same button again. This time, just choose lookalike audience and just say, do I want to do 1% to 10% of a population? And that's how you make the audience. It's really, they did a really good job on the user experience. It used to be wild how you created audiences back in the day.
It still is like, I always forget that it's like two steps until I go, because I usually will do Facebook ads and then I'll kind of take a break and then I'll have forgotten like where everything is and
Yeah.
forget it's a two-step process.
But I mean,
Oh,
it changes all the time too. Like as somebody who's a course creator that teaches this, we've never
oh,
created videos that show inside of Ads Manager. We do it in step-by-step form because it's
yeah.
changing all the time. So just when we have all of our standard operating procedures on how to do it, we have to update it again. So nobody wants to recreate videos, but it happens.
Yeah.
Changes are just constant in
You've
Facebook.
got your work cut out for you because like my course is just about like, creating a website and that with Elementor and that can be enough. Like
Yeah.
that's a lot to go back and redo those videos. But yeah, you're smart to not even do those
Don't put it in.
in video form. All
Yeah,
right, cool.
foundational principles only in
Oh yeah.
videos. But I actually heard a fascinating stat that Facebook could be testing up to, it was something like 10,000 variations of their platform at any given minute. So if you know that, if you know change is a constant, then you don't have to be so stressed or hard on yourself when you go to set up a Facebook ad and it feels different or you're not sure what to do, because that's the constant, that it's just always going to change. So just know
Yeah.
that even myself, who's in there every single day, I still look at it and be like, where the heck did that thing go?
Yeah. Usually they don't change it enough to where it's like crazy changes all at once, but every now and
Right.
then. All right, cool. So let's see what we got here. Another from IDQ Graphics. Oh, that's just a follow up to that same question. Darren says we answered his question already. Awesome. I think he's got another one. He says, could you hypothetically create an engine where you run an ad for web traffic to your site and simultaneously run a lookalike audience? I need to read through that
I think,
again. Do you understand it,
so
Bond?
I think what you're saying is where you're running an ad that is generating a source audience in real time. I think what he's saying. So you're targeting people to go to the website, and then you take that audience of people that just went to the website and create a lookalike audience from it to fuel that process, right? So it's like a cyclical loop. Yes, you can absolutely do that. Here, there's two things. One, from a technical standpoint, lookalike audiences update as your source audience updates. So the more traffic that you then get to that site, that information will feed into the lookalike and will constantly update. So it's not a static thing that as soon as you create a lookalike, those are the only people in it forever. It is a dynamic audience that will update as you go. So yes, your mind's thinking in the right place. However, to do that, you would actually discount the power of Facebook because you would have to target people in that first ad. And so what would you use to target? Probably interest targeting. So you're just creating a lookalike audience based on interest targeting, which kind of like takes away the power of a lookalike audience. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I would almost just start with lookalike audiences and send them straight to where you want to go so that Facebook can pick the best people from there, as long as you have that source audience. So I believe that's what we were referring to there.
Yeah, and I would always definitely, like, I would maybe run that first ad to a lead magnet of some kind and then make that lookalike audience based on your opt-ins. It's going to be a more powerful audience, right? Like these are people that have not simply clicked over to a website, but they've actually given over their email address.
Yeah.
It's a much more engaged set of people.
Absolutely.
Okay. IDQ Graphics says, Wes and Bond, can you please make a small course on this thing? That would be really great for us to hear. Hey, neither of us have anything going on right now, Bond, right?
Yeah.
We can do it. Hey, maybe one day. All right.
Yeah, I mean, it's an important thing. Facebook ads, just in general. Let me tell you, for those listening and watching, getting in there and just experimenting with something and trying to figure it out is half the battle. So Wes and I could talk all day about lookalike audiences until we're blue in the face. But the best way to learn is literally to Google it, to tinker around with it in there, and then make sure it's the right thing for your business. If you know it's the right thing for your business, then seek out mentorship to go deeper with it. But always just like tinker around with it, see if you're like, yeah, this thing has legs. If it does, then go down the learning pathway. If not, sure, I teach Facebook ads, but Facebook ads is not the answer for every single person.
Right. And you have a very specific kind of niche too. Is like the course that I'm in with you it's mostly geared toward course creators, which is not going to be for most of you necessarily, but it's still like, oh my God, the principles are they're kind of life-changing for me at least. So,
amazing.
And Robin Cole says, how can I watch a replay of this live stream? It'll just be on YouTube as soon as we're done. Okay. And then
or catch it on your podcast.
Yes, it'll be on a podcast episode as well. So that'll be out in a few months. Okay. We batch these out, with plenty of runway ahead of them. Let's see. Mohammed says, can I know how to target someone who has interacted with one of your third ad in a loop? How to track the loop in ads? Do you understand the question, Bond?
I think so. So if we go back, I believe it was Darren's question about like, if we send something over here, can we then use that as a source audience over here to then create another ad? So you can target people like let me preface it this way. Whenever my clients would come to me and they said, hey, Bond, could we target a person who did this on our website over here, but then didn't purchase this over there? If they then that, you know what I mean? Like a very like complex thing. My answer was always yes. You could literally use the different types of audiences in Facebook to target any combination of actions that somebody in your world and ecosystem has taken. It might take time to figure out what that looks like, but there's so many targeting options available. If you're going to target the third person in the loop, that's a very complex thing. So I wouldn't start with that. I would be like, how do I make sure this first ad in the loop over here is working first? And then if you have that result, if you see that working, then you'll already understand it enough to then create the second loop. And then again, make sure that ad's working before then you would like loop in the third thing. But again, these are super advanced tactics that you would never start with out of the gate. But like I would say to my clients, every targeting option is possible.
Yeah. If you want to get crazy enough with it, it's all there for you. All right. This is a good one. I actually wanted to ask you this myself. Darren says, thoughts on lead gen ads for service-based businesses. So those lead ads, what are your thoughts on those?
The ones where you don't even leave Facebook to get the ads?
It just opens up a form and you're done.
And you're done. I'm a big fan of it. So I used to own a service-based business. Well, I've actually owned a few. I've owned a home services business over a decade ago. And then I used to run ads for clients as my service. And so what I like about them is that you don't really need to have a lot of techie setup. You don't need to worry about landing pages. You don't really need to worry about the website experience in the same way. Their information, when they click those ads open, auto-populates. So it makes filling it out even easier for them. So it has a lot of good elements to it. Here's my one caveat, that if you're going to use them, make sure you have it set up so that you can actually deliver what you say to the person that just opted in. And I say this from experience because we were looking to buy a house in the last little while, and I kept opting in to a bunch of lead ads from real estate agencies. And out of those real estate agencies, I think I opted in at one point to 12 different lead ads. and had not heard back from a single person. Because there was no way, like they weren't seeing those leads come in real time and acting on them. They didn't have a software to automate it. You don't have to have a software. You could be seeing those ads in real time and seeing those people in real time and then reaching out to them. But 12 out of 12 did not follow up with me. So if you're going to use lead ads, which I definitely recommend experimenting with, if it's something that you're interested in, it can be a really great user experience if you're going to follow up on the other side of it. Because I don't want you to be that 100% of people that I opted into and didn't get anything.
Yeah, that's a bummer. And I've always thought about them. That's interesting use case because that's obviously like set up an appointment. I'll call you back.
Yeah.
I was thinking it more like lead magnet kind of thing where it's kind of set to auto deliver. What are your thoughts on using them for lead magnets as opposed to a landing page?
I mean, I would test everything. When we set them up, you need a third-party tool. So sometimes it's I don't think I've found a free one. It's always been some sort of paid tool that we were either already subscribed to or needed to add that then takes those people and puts them on the email list so that it could auto deliver the lead magnet and continue following up with them in emails in terms of the normal sales process. So there is a little like link that needs to happen. I haven't personally used it just because, not that I haven't personally used it. It's been a while since I tested it. I have used it. I don't personally use it in my business now, just because our website landing pages are set up. But now that I say this out loud, I'm like, maybe I should test it. Maybe I should see if lead ads are the way to go again, because it's been a while since I messed around with that functionality in Ads Manager. But as a service provider, if you're doing quotes, if you're doing, oh my gosh, what are they called? Like proposals where you show up and do an estimate at their house.
Yeah.
If you're not getting a large volume and don't need to automate it, I think it can be a great tool. If you do automate it and the rest of the sales sequence happens, it can also be a great tool. So definitely, I'm always saying experiment with everything.
Yeah. And there's definitely like different conversion rates you might be able to get from that versus a landing page. I've heard maybe converts better, but the quality of people may be a little less because there was less hurdles for them to jump over, basically.
Yeah. It might even be a solution to the iOS stuff because they're not technically leaving the platform. So who knows? Maybe there's going to be a resurgence of lead ads coming up soon.
That could be the case. Again, like that's one of those things that I think Facebook might be kind of noodling over in the background. So
we're thinking here. This is got good ideas.
Let's see. From Rocking Life, do Google Ads work best for local education institution or Facebook lead campaign?
Ooh.
So Google Ads. Yeah, I mean, it's basically, that comes down to, are people searching for you or do you need to kind of interrupt them and insert yourself in front of them? I'm actually running, I haven't talked to you about this yet, Bond, but I'm running YouTube ads as well. So it's like, yeah, but YouTube ads are different than Google ads. There can be a search component within YouTube, but if someone's looking for what you do and there's keyword volume for it, I think why not capitalize on that in addition to Facebook ads possibly? What do you think?
Yeah, I believe that they can work well together. Everything comes down to your specific business goals, your specific business current results, like how much traffic you might be getting, where people are currently looking for you. I always say success leaves clues. So whatever is working for us currently, where people are coming from, there's usually a pool of people that we can tap into from that exact medium that we're not getting in front of yet. So it's a yes, and they both could be amazing, especially together.
Yeah, I agree. And especially like, what if you did Google ads to your website for people looking, and then you had the Facebook ads as retargeting, getting some of those people who came, but they weren't necessarily ready at that point. I think that could be great. All right. So we have one from Manav. And he says, how do I make custom audiences for subscription businesses, like people who place 4 orders before canceling or something? Since subscription is automatic, my concern is Facebook might not track it.
That's a good one.
Okay. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, if they've become a customer, they likely have given you their email address. So what we can do is we can just give that customer list to Facebook and say, make an audience of people who purchased from us. So we can also pull reports on the back end of our business to say, hey, find me the customers who had a monthly charge 5 times, right? And then you get those people that had the 5 times monthly charge. And then from there, you pull that email list and give it to Facebook, right? So I don't necessarily think it's about the subscription. It's about what information can Facebook take from that human who transacted with us to know that they took that action. So in the example, how would we know people who renewed 4 times? Well, you get people who have billed 5 months, you pull their email addresses from your back end, and then you give that to Facebook. So it's less of an automated process. Yeah. There are third-party tools that you could automate it. So at a certain point, once they did so many actions, your customer management tool could then automatically send that information to Facebook. So that is possible if you're doing it at scale. But similar answer to before, can you create any audience? Yes, just you have to figure out how.
Yeah, there's always a way. I see what you're doing there, Manav. I see what you're doing, Manav, like with the 4 orders, because what do they say? The average subscription service like cancels after 90 days. So he's saying like anyone who's above average, I want more people like that.
More of those, thank you.
Exactly. Z says, in terms of reach versus traffic versus conversions for a small business that has a small budget, what would you say is the best option, mostly for a lead gen business? So reach, traffic, conversions. I mean,
small budget, I would always go with conversions first, right? Because you want to put Facebook, you want to use the power of the Facebook algorithm. So small budget, we're going to say to them, hey, go find me the people who are most likely to become leads. Then if you have any budget left over, if your frequency is starting to get high, meaning the number of times people are seeing that same ad, then I might consider a traffic one, right? And traffic's going to get people to that landing page, that page on your website, but not necessarily the people who are going to become leads instantly. And so then I would want people to know more about me to visit my site, but you have to understand that those people might not take action that specific day. And then if you have any budget left over after that, then you zoom out to reach from more of a branding standpoint. But to maximize it, you would start with conversions. If you have more budget, zoom out to traffic, more budget, zoom out to reach.
Yeah, nice. So we're getting to a point now where we're hitting an hour, so we're going to have to kind of pick and choose some questions here. I'm going to go kind of fast. So one from Karam Hana says, Facebook locked my ad account. What can I do now?
No.
What happens?
I actually have a YouTube video that you can check out. If you Google Amanda Bond social media examiner, it should come up. It's just an ad account disabled. Maybe we can link it in any show notes that you have. But
okay.
The quick answer is appeal. The hard reality is that usually as advertisers, we've done something wrong, meaning everyone is quick to judge Facebook about, Facebook's so evil, they're trying to shut us down. Well, usually at the end of the day, it's because we didn't follow one of their rules. So one, appeal it, especially if the rule that you didn't follow wasn't inaccurate, meaning like if there was an error, appeal it. 2, learn the Facebook advertising policies inside and out. Like you just have to follow their rules. It's a behemoth opportunity. And like, we just have to realize that being on that platform is a privilege, and to follow those rules. So just like, look at what you're doing, make sure it's following the rules, make sure it's a great user experience for that person on the other side of the screen. And then every single time that I've chatted with a rep and they said like that an ad account was never reinstated, a rep would always be like, just start another ad account, which is not necessarily, this is not legal advice. I'm not personally giving you this advice. I'm just passing this information on to you. This is not my recommendation. My first recommendation is follow the rules and try and get your account back. However, that is information that I've heard on multiple instances. So I'm sorry that you're in, you didn't hear it from us. I'm sorry that you're having that experience. And then just in the future, literally just follow the rules to the T.
Yeah. And it's, in terms of appealing, is there like a number you call, or okay, you can find a phone number?
So in your ad account, there's a section now called, what's it called? I think it's called Account Health. So you go to your ads manager, you go to the menu, and there's a new section called Account Health, and it'll usually tell you what you did wrong, and you can appeal in there. If that is not showing any place for you to appeal, sometimes there's just like a red error bar on the top of your ads manager with an appeal button. If that's not showing, there's one more option, which is in the top right-hand corner of the screen, which is this side, the top right-hand corner of the screen, with a little gear wheel. And if you click that gear wheel, there's a help button, and sometimes you can live chat with a human at Facebook. So you have to just scroll to the bottom of the help section, and sometimes they have a chat button. So those are my recommendations. But if you do find that video, I believe we link to those things in that as well.
Cool. I love live chat. All right. This one's from Simon Grill. I'm new to advertise on Facebook. Is it better for me to get a pro to do it for me and focus on my business?
Ooh, so I feel like I have controversial thoughts on this because, I mean, if you look at Shark Tank, for example, if you watch that TV show, the sharks sitting in those chairs aren't running their own Facebook ads. But here's the thing, the sharks understand the model and the method of Facebook ads so that they can speak to what's actually happening in terms of business results. If you don't know how Facebook ads function, if you don't know how to measure those results and you just hire it out, how can you know when there's red flags happening right in front of you? So for me, my personal belief, and feel free to adapt a different one for your business situation, is I want to understand at least the framework of something, how it works, how it functions, how you measure success, how it fits into my business as a whole. That's what I need to understand as a CEO. Sometimes that means just getting an ads manager and figuring it out for a while. Sometimes it means just going through and training or hiring somebody who's going to walk me through the entire process. So for me, it's about learning that information first, so then I can go sit in the chair and be the shark, calling the shots from above. But it was a process that I had to go through to get there. And sometimes we just learn best being in the trenches, figuring it out, and like bashing your head, being like, why won't this work?
Yeah,
because
you learn
then
it,
you
so
value
you don't have to do
it
it
more.
anymore.
Yes, exactly.
That's the whole point. All right, cool. So let's see. Just go through a few. Darren Chambers, would lead gen ads counteract new Facebook ad updates since users aren't leaving? Yeah, we kind of covered that. We think that could be a good workaround. Yeah. All right. So let's see. Okay. Mohammed says, I actually want to target audiences with ad one is only engaged audiences on Facebook. Ad one equals ad two targeter and leftovers targeter with dirty. Yeah. So
I'm following. So he's basically saying, I want one ad, and if they engage with that one ad, then show them only ad two. And then if anybody engages with two, then show them three, then show them four, then show them five. Mohammed, The challenge here is you then need to make sure each of those ads are video ads, because when you take an engagement audience, you can't isolate one single post. You can't say to Facebook, hey, only put the people who engaged with this one single post in an audience and then target them with the next one. But you can do it by saying, hey, anyone who watched at least 3 seconds of this single video, then show them the next ad, which would also have to be a video, because you can't just target people who engage with that one ad. So you would then say, hey, take anyone who watched at least 3 seconds of that ad and then show them this ad, and so on and so forth. So the only way to do that so granularly is with a video. And we call these in our company the trigger video, because it acts as a trigger to then queue up the next thing in the sequence. So if you want it to be 5 deep, one after the other, it has to be a video, and you need to be sending enough volume to that first one for that 5th one to be able to fire. Because like, if only 10 people are seeing that first one per day, there's not going to be enough volume on 5. Like, you need to be sending 20,000 people to that first one per day so that it cascades through it.
And that's probably why you're also saying 3 seconds, because that's like the bare minimum. Because if we're saying, because a lot of gurus out there will say like, anyone who watches 75% of the video, it's like, well, okay, I mean, that's going to be 2 people. So now you're you're whittling it down to
our audience pool is a little bit small.
That one person in the end. So, all right, cool. So we'll just do one last question. This one's kind of a fun one because it's travel related, and we'll let you go here. So if Sergey says, how would Bond target those who are planning their wedding, a destination wedding in Italy or France?
I believe there's an option in I haven't used this in a while, but I believe there's an option to choose where people are planning to travel to. I know there's an option to say, target people who are visiting this destination. I know there's an option to do target people who visited this destination, but I feel like there's also they're planning to hit that destination. If that's not the case, this might be an instance where you look for specific interests. So do the exact opposite of what we recommended with the lookalike audience. Do what we talked about first, and find specific interests that would cater to people planning destination weddings. Is there destination wedding magazines? Is there destination wedding brands? Is there destination wedding like travel resorts that are known for like hosting that kind of event? You know what I mean? Like, you might have to get a little bit more inventive with it. Or I'm gonna like go back to something that Wes mentioned earlier, just from a content marketing standpoint, is like, I feel like this could actually be really strong with SEO, meaning you're writing content that's geared towards people planning this. You put the Facebook pixel on that site, and then you're retargeting the people coming to those pages, or guest posting on blogs and stuff that cater to that specific demographic. There's a few options. It is a very specific niche. You'll be able to figure it out if you spend enough time like trying to hunt down some interest, though.
Yeah, there's got to be something that maybe other wedding vendors in those areas, or maybe make a video for people planning on getting married, and it says like the video is along the lines of, if you're planning on like a destination wedding to France or Italy, you're going to want to watch this video, and then you just kind of run that fairly broadly, and then anyone who watches maybe 10 seconds of that one gets the real ad, right?
Yeah, and even like with that broad targeting option, just like you could be targeting anyone. I believe Facebook has the option of anyone planning a wedding, so they can get specific on people who are getting married. So you would plug into that demographic. You might even do interests of the country of like France or Italy, because they're going to be Googling a bunch of stuff with Facebook pixels on it. They're going to be looking at specific things on Facebook, liking, sharing, commenting. So Facebook will likely pick up their planning from different angles, right? Like interest in French cuisine. Like there's different ways that you can take it. Like you just got to think, what is this human going through and experiencing as they're planning this wedding, and then play around that circle essentially.
Yeah, that's awesome. So thank you for being here with me today, Bond. And thanks for everyone for watching. And yes, I think this has been really helpful for a lot of people because Facebook ads are a beast, man.
Facebook ads are a beast. I mean, everyone, I've been doing this for years, and each week there's always something new to get excited by, to keep me on my toes. I'm somebody that goes in depth with this process. So I don't say this to scare you and overwhelm you. Facebook ads foundationally are actually quite simple. You find somebody you want to put an ad in front of, you create an ad, you put it in front of them. Foundationally, that's what it comes down to. But I get so excited because as business owners, we've never had such access to the humans that we want to make a difference in their lives and transact with. And I mean, it's just so fun to figure it out. I remember the very first day that I placed my very first Facebook ad, and it sucked. It was so bad. Yeah, like it was so bad, but I was in the trenches and people were clicking and they were visiting this event that we were trying to sell out locally. And I was like, this is wild that you can just pay a few dollars and have your stuff directly placed in front of humans. So it's such a cool industry. And if you're thinking about jumping in, definitely take a leap. Definitely be prudent with the dollars that you spend. Don't go all in, all at the start. But yeah, very fascinating. And I'm so grateful to be able to chat with you about it today, Wes. So thank you for the opportunity.
Hey, thanks for coming on. This has been amazing. So let the people know again where they can find you online.
Perfect. So you can come over to my YouTube channel, which will be available soon. You can find that at Amanda Bond, the ad strategist on YouTube, or head over to our website where we have lots of information about how ads are working today at theadstrategist.com.
Nice. Well, we're not going to do any better than that. So thanks everyone for being here. And thank you, Bond. It's been a pleasure as always.